All right, guys, I just want to welcome back to the Everything College World podcast. Today, me and Nick here will be taking a look at a Big Ten playoff eliminator between USC and Oregon. Game of the week going down in Eugene, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time on CBS. Ducks 10.5-point favorites, 59.5 is that total. Get anything started with the SC offense on the Oregon defense. For the Trojans, this is a tale of two different teams when it comes to playing on the road compared to at home. At home, this is an offense that's firing on all cylinders. They have great balance. It wasn't the prettiest performance against Iowa in the rain this past Saturday, but they've been untouchable at home. When they go on the road, it's not been as ideal. They struggled against Purdue. Illinois, they ended up losing that game. They probably should have got blown out in it. Notre Dame, they played a lot better than I anticipated, but still it wasn't the prettiest performance. And then against Nebraska, they put up a season low 135 pass yards. So now they have to go to Eugene to make the playoffs. They got to win this game. And with Jaden Maiava at the helm, they always have a great shot. This is a guy averaging 287 pass yards per game, 18 touchdowns, showcases amazing touch when it comes to intermediate and deep ball accuracy. He's had a bit of a turnover problem, especially on the road. He had some bad plays against Notre Dame when it comes to accuracy. Had an interception that was really bad on an open receiver. They had another one late in the game when it was them just trying to make plays and whatnot. Had a bad pick against Illinois. This is a team that has to be incredibly consistent on this side of the ball, Nick. And under Lincoln Riley, that's just been a problem, right? Going on the road has been a bit of a kryptonite for them. This past game has the capability of torching anybody. Mekhi Lemon, one of the best receivers in the country. This guy catches everything. 1,090 yards, 8 touchdowns, 71 receptions. Is probably going to win the Blitnikoff, either him or Jeremiah Smith. Jacoby Lane is a highly impressive pass catcher as well with his strong physical stature, amazing hands. Lake McCree at tight end has 389 and 2 touchdowns. You got a couple of other guys like Tanook Hines and Walker Lyons to get involved as well. For Oregon, Nick, this is a secondary, in terms of statistics, one of the best in the country. Only a 50% comp rate allowed, 127 yards per game. They are playing some weak passing attacks, but I'm not going to sit here and just say that they're overrated because they played Rutgers in October. That's a really good passing attack. They held them to 30% comp rate, 80 yards, 2 picks. So this is a legit secondary. Against Indiana, they had some struggles. They didn't get torched by any means. They have a freshman corner, Brandon Finney, that's been playing great. He's going to have a tough matchup on Lemon. Biggest concern, again, though, for SC Nick is that they are just not as good on the road. And with a defense that they have that likes to struggle, especially against the run, they have to be perfect to win this game.
It's that time of year where you're going to start seeing eliminators in the SEC and Big Ten. There's a lot of top-end teams in both of those conferences, but only so many spots to go around in the playoff. Well, 12 to be exact, and plus you got to factor in all your auto qualifiers and everything else. This is one of those big eliminators. This is a weak weekend for college football, but this is a marquee game. Getting that main slot on CBS, getting game day for a reason. This is a big matchup between two previous Pac-12 rivals in the Big Ten. This is a big opportunity for USC. I think this is a huge opportunity for USC. I look at this team, right? They've had some struggles on offense on the road so far this season. I think the 33 points against Purdue, it was a weak showing. Obviously early in the season it was good to get that road win, but I don't think the offense was that phenomenal at Purdue. The offense was pretty strong against Illinois, right? 32 points in what was a close loss at Illinois. That was a really good fight from the offense, but they struggled against Notre Dame. The offense was out of sync, and they did not look great on the road in Lincoln against Nebraska. This is a big opportunity to right some of those wrongs, put some points on the board, and have a strong day. I think the offense is phenomenal. 38.2 points per game is clearly a very strong number. The 5.6 yards per attempt is good, and the 7.43 yards per play is really solid as well. Maiava has been really good under center. He's been as advertised, 2,800 yards passing, 67% comp rate's pretty solid, 18 touchdowns, 6 picks. Pretty good right across the board, what you like to see out of him. He has been really confident under center. Has 6 rushing touchdowns as well. So he's certainly a big asset for this team across the board, which I think is really important when you look at where this team is going. Mekhi Lemon is obviously clearly an incredible star for this team. 71 receptions. That is a huge number. Just under 1,100 yards receiving for him, 15.4 yards per grab, 8 touchdowns and 110 yards per game. Incredible numbers. Jacoby Lane takes some of that pressure off him with the 40 grabs. So Lake McCree, I think, is a great asset in those short situations where you can really get him involved and see what you can do with him. I think he's a really key player to get them involved potentially on third down, kind of find a way to hit him when necessary. Same thing with Eli Sanders, the back. I like what this passing attack can do. I think the rushing attack with King Miller and Wayman Jordan has been really solid as well for this team. It's obviously not the greatest rushing attack in the world, but 5.6 I think is still really solid, and they're kind of getting to that groove. The Oregon defense, 13.7 points per game, is clearly a very strong number. The secondary having 9 picks to only 6 touchdowns given up is a really strong number as well, just under 1,300 yards passing given up. for this secondary. So they're a very strong unit. They've played some weaker teams, but they had some success against some of those tougher teams on their schedule as well. I like some of the key pieces they have. I think Aaron Flowers obviously is a big asset for this team who has been doing great things all season long. This is a very talented team across the board, and I think the secondary has a lot of those key pieces that are stepping up for this Oregon defense. This is a chess match, though, right? Can this defense find a way to, put Maeva in some trouble, put some pressure on him early, make him uncomfortable? That will go a long way for this, Oregon Ducks defense playing in front of the home crowd.
If USC can run the football, they'll have a great chance of winning this game. On the road against Notre Dame, they were awful. Wasn't very good, only 68 yards rushing. On the other hand, against teams like Nebraska and Michigan, they ran it all over them. King Miller, the walk-on, has been amazing for them. They had a lot of injuries, and running back 3 had to step up. He's been phenomenal, 719 yards, 7.2 yards per carry. Wayman Jordan potentially could play in this game. If so, probably not going to have much of an impact coming back from injury. It's going to come down to the trenches, right? Oregon has a great run defense. Nobody's really been able to crack them all year. The most they allowed was 178 to Northwestern early on in the year, and that was on a late garbage time run that went pretty long for Northwestern. So nobody's really even approaching 150 when it comes to running on this team, not even Indiana, a game they lost earlier on in the season. It's a phenomenal defensive line. Tim Teoti, Metoe Uyungale. These guys are great pass rushers, a phenomenal duo coming off the edge. USC, Elijah Page at left tackle, didn't end up playing much against Iowa due to injury. What's his status going to be as the top pass blocker for this team? It's going to be tough. The interior offensive lines really struggled. They're hoping that J-Andre Reed can come back at center, though, to give him a bit of a boost. Over at right tackle, it's also been a bit of a struggle for him. This is not great offensive line and pass protection. When it comes to their run fits, though, when it comes to schematics with counter runs and pulling linemen and whatnot, they have a lot of size, some impressive physicality. They can create some run lanes for them. USC is going to have balance. But again, Oregon has just been incredibly stifling. I know the schedule's not the toughest, but that's fine. You have your favorite team go play Oregon and we'll see what happens. I think this is a legit defense. I think the linebacking group led by Bryce Bocher is well coached. I don't think the guys alongside him like Jerry Mixon, Devon Jackson are the greatest, but Bocher's such an impact performer in the middle that it's all right that some other players are lacking. You also alluded to guys like Aaron Flowers in the secondary. Jaden Cannady's a nice player in the slot, doesn't give up much. Dylan Theinemann's a nice ball hawk at safety that's doing great things in coverage this year. So overall, Oregon has a great defense. It's well coached. Indiana, they were able to come on the road and do respectable things, but it's not like they exactly torched them, right? So USC is a very comparable opponent on the offensive side of the ball. And for the Trojans, they just have to be good in all phases, right? You got to be nice in pass pro, got to be able to run the ball with some nice efficiency, and the quarterback's got to make big plays and protect the football. That's a lot, Nick. It really is. It's going to be hard here in Eugene, but USC has the recipe for success. Will it be enough?
It's going to be a lot, right? It's tough, certainly. And there's some interesting names that we didn't even mention, like Bear Alexander, a familiar face who was previously a Trojan. He's having a solid season, 39 total tackles, 6 TFLs, and a half a sack for him. He's a guy that's been really solid. Theinemann and Bocher have both been really good for this team. The top 2 tacklers there, Bocher with 81 total tackles. Theinemann has got 50 and 4 pass breakups. He's been a key asset. The offensive line, right, it's got to be strong here for USC. These guys got to be good in the interior, trying to make some opportunities to run on the ground. It's going to be tough to run on this Oregon defense, giving up 3.16 yards per attempt. I think the secondary is really strong as well. This is just a really well-coached defense here, going against a really well-coached offense, right? You're getting best on best here, really great offense versus a really great defense. You certainly tend to lean towards success coming for the defense playing in front of that home crowd. I think that does add a level to it. But if USC can establish a run game early, find a way to put some pressure and relieve some of that pressure on Maeva to let him kind of sit back there and attack the weaker pieces in the secondary, which there aren't many of them, but maybe you want to attack some of the weaker sides, potentially look at Flowers or Kennedy, trying to attack them potentially. Maybe Finney is a guy you want to try and attack early on. Peyton Woodyard, same thing, maybe trying to find a way to attack him. A lot of key pieces in the secondary. Can they find success against them? USC has to have good balance to win this game.
Now you look at the other side of things, the Oregon offense on that Trojan defense. Dante Morris having a splendid season. He led that game-winning drive there and was a defensive slugfest against Iowa. Set up that game-winning field goal in a game that was tough for their passing attack. They were also down to like their number 4 receiver. I mean, they were incredibly beat up. And DeCorian Moore, he still has remained out. We'll see if he's able to play in this game. He's going to be their top pass catcher, of course. So, they would love to have his services available. Kenyon Sadiq right behind him at tight end leads the team with 6 touchdowns, 400-plus yards. Malik Benson Benson, Gary Bryant. Not really sure what the status of Bryant will be either. So they've really had it out at receiver, and the more bodies they can have is going to be better for this team. Obviously, Jeremiah McClellan, a freshman's had to step up, had a nice touchdown against Minnesota. So, I mean, it's really iffy. You're going to have to wait till game day to see how healthy they're going to be at receiver. Nonetheless, though, they're going up against the USC secondary that just lacks talent. I swear the IQ on these guys is ridiculous. Even when they're in phase, they can swat at a ball and they'll still miss, and the receiver will catch it. I mean, that's the kind of things you see from the SC defense. Marcellus Williams, DeCarlos Nicholson, guys are just incredibly inconsistent when it comes to their coverage abilities, especially in man. The run fits are somewhat shaky, but it's not a bad aspect of this secondary safety group. Kamari Ramsey, they're hoping to have him back. Bishop Fitzgerald, these guys have both been elite in coverage this year. Neither of them might be available for this game, so no excuse, right? It's going to be injured on injured potentially for this secondary, but it's a big concern for SC. Their run defense, though, is going to have a monster game. This is the area that is going to be the matchup that dictates the whole game, right? USC has a talented defensive line, but at times they just struggle altogether. Braylon Shelby's a good player. Anthony Lucas, Cameron Crawford. I mean, they have very talented edge rushers. Jakeem Stewart this year has been impressive against the run and with his ability to create negative plays. This Oregon run game, Nick, is so good. I can't even tell people how respectable it is. Their backfield is very deep. Noah Whittington, Jordan Davidson has 12 touchdowns. De'Aaron Hill, very good, right? They're averaging 233 yards per game. The last 4 games, they have 200 plus. They had 400 against Rutgers, 261 on the road against Iowa, the power up to a victory there. This is a great rushing attack. In USC, Nick, they played Notre Dame. They gave up 300 plus yards on the ground in that one. So they're going to have to find ways to create negative plays in the run game. I'll add on to that, but I want to get your opinion on that matchup.
Yeah, it's a very interesting matchup and a tough matchup, right? This is an Oregon rushing attack. That's a really solid unit, and it's going to be tough to get those potential negative plays. Oregon, they're having a solid year on the ground, 6.33 yards per attempt, 26 rushing touchdowns as a unit. Noah Whittington has been really solid, 623, 8.2, and 5 scores. Jordan Davison has been a really good back, 12 touchdowns. He's certainly getting a lot of touches in the red zone. De'Aaron Hill has been really solid. Same thing with Lamar. And they sometimes get Dante Moore involved, not really a whole lot with his legs, but he can potentially get involved if it need be for this offense. I think Whittington obviously is the guy you kind of want to rely on. Same thing with Davison as long as they're both healthy. I think Moore has been really solid at quarterback certainly this season. I look at what this USC run defense can do. It's a unit that's not terrible but not great. 4.42 yards per attempt is probably not the best number in the world. They've struggled against some of those marquee opponents here, and with this good balance that Oregon has where they're able to get 6.33 yards per attempt and 7.36 yards per play, it's going to certainly be difficult. Dante Moore is a really solid quarterback, but if you put pressure on him, you could certainly make him a little more inaccurate and put him in tough situations. 72.8% comp rate, just under 2,200 yards passing, 21 touchdowns, 5 picks. Pretty good season from Moore, right? One of the better ones in the nation. Moore, the wide receiver, has been having a solid season. Curious on his health. Kenyon Sadiq has been really solid at tight end. Malik Benson has been good for this team as well. This is a banged up wide receiving core, and they're still stepping up and getting involved. McClellan's been involved as well. He's been an asset that stepped up as of late. They're finding a way to get the job done despite having injuries. As for USC, I think the defensive line has some good pieces, but I think they got to find a way to step up. This has to be a unit that's going to have to work together. Crawford's been really good for this team, 26 total tackles, 8 TFLs, 3.5 sacks. Same thing with Braylon Shelby, 22 for him, 6 and 3.5. But they both got to be strong as a unit here. They got to get pressure early and often on Moore. They got to stuff the run, create negative plays. It's a tough ask for a unit that's giving up, almost 4.5 yards per attempt. Can they get in the backfield? Can they create negative plays? This is a very dynamic Oregon offense. It's going to throw a lot at you. If you can put pressure on the quarterback, it will go a long way in giving you a chance to win this game.
One thing I think you're going to see from USC, and you saw it a little bit against the Iowa, is you're going to see more of a traditional 4-3. We're going to get 3 linebackers out there, give us an extra big body to try and slow down the run game. And this defense has been elite in the second halves. Over the last 3 games, close first half scores, deficits even, and they've only allowed 6 total points in the second halves of the last 3 games, Nick. That is highly impressive. That shows you adjustments at halftime are working. Those were some tough games against Nebraska with a good rushing attack. Iowa has an elite offensive line. They've been able to stifle them. Will USC have enough physicality from their linebackers? I think that's questionable. Desmond Stevens and Jaden Walker, I'm not sure if they're going to fit the bill. I know Eric Gentry will. With his length, of course, he's going to make some big plays. But I think that's one wrinkle you're going to see from the SC defense. And that is the marks of a good unit. They don't give up. They continue to fight. And they play hard, Nick. So I think if they can keep this game close at halftime with how they've looked in the second halves this year and how they did against Michigan even when it came to slowing down the run, they can be competitive, and they can be competitive enough to win the game.
I think it's extremely important to have a strong second half. And even I want to highlight the Northwestern game. This was a game they ended up winning by a pretty comfortable margin, but that was because they took over in the second half. They stifled that Northwestern Wildcats offense in the second half, a team that was hanging around and trying to make it a competitive contest. They were able to really, shut the door on Northwestern and pull away on that Friday night at home, and what ended up being a really solid win for them. They held Northwestern just to 3 points in the second half and pulled away. They scored 17 of their own points to put up a pretty solid number on the board. They were really strong in the second half against Iowa. They were strong in the second half against Nebraska, right? A good second half will go a massive way for this USC team. I think a good first half will go a long way as well. If they can, potentially go into halftime with a lead, they will feel pretty good about themselves. I like a lot of the pieces in the secondary this year that have kind of stepped up. Stevens, Gentry, the linebacker has been really solid. Stevens, linebacker, has been good as well. Fitzgerald and Pierce, the two pieces in the secondary that have been really solid. Fitzgerald, the safety, 51 total tackles, 5 picks for him, 3 pass breakups. He's been really solid. Carlos Nicholson, I think, has been really good as well. He's been a good asset for this team, but obviously they got to play fully together. They got to play strong throughout this game. Got to look good across the board. If they can keep it close at halftime, I think USC fans will be feeling pretty good about themselves. This team can close games. Those second half adjustments by Lincoln Riley have been absolutely phenomenal this season. On the road, it's going to be a lot tougher in a hostile environment, but if they can find a way to get themselves a lead at half, they'll be feeling pretty good about themselves.
Moving to the final thoughts in the predictions. Again, this is going to be a playoff eliminator, certainly for USC. Oregon, they still have to play at Washington next week, so potentially still an opportunity for a hiccup. But I think if they win this game over a ranked opponent, they're going to go ahead and lock themselves in to the CFP. Lincoln Riley is great when it comes to we got to have it play calls on offense. He has some of the top trick plays in the game that he brings out in marquee matchups. So you're going to see some wrinkles to score some points. SC played a lot better than I thought they would at Notre Dame, despite giving up 300 plus rushing. They still were within one score throughout the contest. Big problem for USC this year is red zone offense, right? There's a couple of keys in this one for them to certainly win. Red zone offense, we got to have 7 every single time. The rushing defense, Nick, they're going to give up yards, right? There's no way around it. But if we can stand tall in short yardage situations, that's going to give you a great opportunity to limit the scoring output by the Ducks. I think for USC, I don't expect them to win this game. I think if they can keep it close, though, at halftime, with what we saw over the last couple of weeks, they have an opportunity to certainly do some damage. It's asking a lot here. You're going to have a perfect performance. SC at times has shown flashes of that. I think the defense is competitive enough to hang around and allow the offense to cook. At the end of the day, though, the expectation from me as a fan is the offense is just not going to be able to manufacture enough. And you can't get into shootouts. When your defense is poor, you can't try to do that, especially on the road. Go tick for tat. It's just not going to work, right? It's not a formula for success. And this is an interesting game. Excited for it. Lincoln Riley has SC in a great opportunity here. It's going to be a lot, though, to try and get over that hump and beat the Ducks in Autzen Stadium.
Yeah, I think you have a good read here. I'm going to, take USC to cover the 10.5. I think it'll be a competitive game. I agree, right? A shootout benefits Oregon. A lower scoring game benefits USC. I think if it's a shootout going back and forth, trading blows, I think Oregon will ultimately have too much steam from the home crowd and really get the job done at the end of the day. It's just going to be tough to keep up with this Ducks offense. I think your defense is going to have to keep keep yourself in a position to win this game, and I think they will. If they keep this game close at halftime, they'll be feeling pretty good about themselves. They've really been solid. Like I said, Lincoln Riley has been a wizard adjusting for second half games so far this season. This is a huge game, right? If USC wins, I think their case again in the playoff with 2 losses is a lot better than if Oregon loses their case of getting up with 2 losses in the playoffs. I really don't know how many 2-loss teams in the Big Ten will actually get into the college football playoff because I think the SEC teams with 2 losses have a better resume when it's all said and done. I don't know if Michigan's resume is strong enough. I don't know if Oregon's resume of a loss here would be strong enough. I think USC has the best resume of those potential 2-loss teams at the kind of the top of the Big Ten. I think really only teams that are guaranteed right now are Indiana and Ohio State to get in the playoff. Oregon has to win this game, in my opinion, if they want to go to the college football playoff. I think they will win this game. USC will put up a good fight. I think USC is showing me a lot of progress. I think the offense is showing me what I expected out of them. And the defense, I think, is showing me some progress as well, which is a good sign if you're a Trojans fan. It's just a tough ask to go win at Autzen Stadium. I know Indiana did it earlier in the year, but that's just a very talented roster. That's clearly on a bout of destiny, in my opinion, from the Hoosiers. A strong USC team will put up a good fight here. They'll cover the spread. They'll put a punching chance in there. They'll make competitive, but ultimately, I think Oregon will get the job done and come out with a huge win that will get them all, for all intent and purposes, in the college football playoff, pending a slip up against Washington, which I do not expect from this Ducks team. And even with a loss to Washington, I still think they would find their way in, even if they have those 2 losses. And it may be a potential weak resume because USC would have 3 losses. A big game in the Big Ten. This is what you look for, right? The highlight game of the weekend. Game day going up to the Northwest for a reason, the Pacific Northwest. A great matchup on CBS. I'm very excited for this one. USC, if they can find a way to win this game, man, they're legit. Oregon, if they really look convincing in this one, that could be a big deal for their story. I think they're competitive. Anybody in the country, if they get in the big dance, they'll be a tough team to defeat and put out when it's all said and done. A great matchup in store on Saturday afternoon.
That's me for today's episode. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.